Welcome everybody, Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. Welcome to Fantasy Football. Week 9 starts and sits. I am going solo today. Tim the Bald Guy is not online with us, but I'm going to walk you through all of the optimal players to start this week at each position, the guys that have the best matchups, and also going to be going over the guys that got the worst matchups at each position. Exciting episode. I do have a few announcements before I get into the show. Listen, I've started a new show called The Joe Camo Show. It's really my last name. And I wanted to create this show because I wanted to have guests on the show, like people, guests, athletes, people that are in the sports industry, and talk about just life and sports and fitness and entrepreneurship. I find I couldn't do that here on the show. Every time I try to bring a guest on, people say, oh, can you get to the fantasy content? Which is fine because it's a fantasy football show. And I find that if I brought guests in, I was limited to the topic of fantasy football. So I've opened it up to everything sports and life with the Joe Camo Show. You're really genuinely going to enjoy it. I've linked it below here. Make sure you guys do subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and the YouTube channel. I've linked it all below. And please leave a 5-star rating or review on the Apple podcast. Please go ahead and do that. It really helps the channel completely. Okay, guys? So it's called the Joe Camo Show, linked below. Also, guys, I've teamed up with Manscaped. In my hand, I've got the lawnmower here. It's an amazing trimmer to protect your private areas. This is a great gift if you're a female and you want to buy your husband something. Manscaped trimmer, it's amazing. Also, if you're a dude, trust me, man, this thing works, trims your body, and it doesn't give you the nicks and cuts. It's very safe. It's got an amazing technology here to protect you from cutting yourself in the sensitive areas. Manscaped.com. Use promo code SHOWERLION. Okay, guys, there's also a link below here for that. Make sure you guys get your trimmer and treat yourself. They got some other cool products for man, like including ball wipes and other cool stuff. So make sure you guys check them out below, okay? All right, let's talk about week 9 starts and sits. Now, I can't believe we're at week 9, but we're here. Make sure you guys start and sit the right people, obviously. So, quarterback position, Drew Lock, great matchup versus Atlanta. Had a good game last week, 21 points. Not bad. He's going to continue to have a decent game if he gets into the groove and gets going. Atlanta should be a good matchup for him. But again, we've seen it. We saw it. I think, who was it they played? They played Bridgewater. Bridgewater was supposed to play Atlanta. Didn't have the greatest week, so you got to be cautious. Sometimes matchup is good, but if you have a better option, start that person, okay? Josh Allen, okay? Good matchup versus Seattle. He had 14 points last week. Not the greatest, but good matchup. Other guys with good matchups, Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson. Now, I don't know if you'd start this guy here, but he does have a good matchup. Cam Newton versus the Jets. Now, he's been a little bit volatile, so be cautious with him. Cam Newton having a good matchup this week. Justin Herbert, Tom Brady. All these guys have good matchups. Matt Ryan has a good matchup against Denver. 19 points last week, okay? Now, a lot of people uncertain about Matt Ryan. He has been relatively consistent. He had, I think, 1 or 2 games where he was okay, but he's been relatively consistent. You're going to get anywhere from 17 to 25 points in the game, kind of like a floor there, okay? Other guys with decent matchups, you may want to consider Kirk Cousins versus Detroit. Had a mediocre week the last week he played. And Russell Wilson, he's been red hot. Has a mid-range matchup, okay? Guys that have tough matchups at the quarterback position. Lamar Jackson versus Indy, coming off a 19-point game last time he played. I mean, he does have it in tough this week, but if he's your starter, how do you sit him, right? Drew Brees, tougher matchup versus Tampa Bay. Sam Darnold versus New England. Ryan Tannehill versus Chicago. Teddy Bridgewater against KC. All relatively tough matchups, okay? Pat Mahomes, 8th hardest matchup for his position, coming off that amazing week. I mean, he just tore it up. I mean, some quarterbacks are weighed differently in certain leagues. I got him here at over 40 points, but he had like over 50 in certain leagues, right? Depends on how your league scores quarterbacks, but he had like a 50-point week in some leagues. Unbelievable week. He is playing Carolina. A little bit tougher, but should still be solid. Other names that have a little bit tough this week that are popular. Kyler Murray had a good game last time he played. He is playing Miami. They play quarterbacks a little bit tougher, 9th hardest versus position. And you've got Aaron Rodgers, 11th hardest versus position. So those are your quarterbacks. Again, when you are looking at starts and sits, try to get the most consistent quarterback you can get, or any position for that matter. Try to get a position where you know that, okay, if I start this guy, he looks like he's been consistent the past 3 weeks. and then start him. Don't always go for the matchup, but I'm just giving you all the optimal matchups versus positions. Up to you to kind of go with your gut feeling and say, hey, I like this guy, I like that guy, okay? All right, let's go with the wide receiver position. Then we go to tight end. Then we go to the running back position. Stephon Diggs, great matchup, okay? They are playing Seattle, Buffalo versus Seattle. Diggs, good matchup. Now, again, tune in Saturday. I do a DFS show giving you some optimal players as well and helping you guys get that DFS lineup going, okay? But Diggs is a good matchup. Someone you should definitely consider at the wide receiver position. He was mediocre the past couple weeks, around 15 points a game. Hopefully he picks it up and does a lot better, okay? Other guys that have a good matchup here are the Detroit wide receivers. Now, Galladay's been kind of snoozing. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know what happened to him. It seems like other receivers are getting involved there. But either way, I got to tell you, Detroit receivers do have it in good this week. Make sure you consider starting them. They are playing Minnesota secondary, so not bad. Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Juju. All of these guys have a good matchup versus Dallas. But again, I mean, they're 7-0, right? I think they're 7-0 or 8-0. Listen, the Steelers are going to win another game. They're going to go 8-0. They're going to win this matchup. They are playing Dallas, and any one of these guys is going to thrive. We don't know who. Deontay should be healthy and good. Juju, we don't know. It's the problem that we're having. It's like they're spreading the ball around in Pittsburgh. Nobody really knows. So when you're looking at this matchup, it's really a roll of the dice, okay? I've got both Claypool and Deontay in a league where you can start up to 7 receivers. I'm probably going to start both these guys in that matchup, okay? Jerry Jeudy and any of the Denver wide receivers have a good matchup. Again, it's a bit of a crapshoot. Is it Hamler? Who's catching the ball there? Nobody really knows, okay? There's so much uncertainty. And I mentioned that Drew Lock could have a good year. There's so many targets there. As soon as Sutton went down, I'm like, okay, maybe things open up for Jeudy. Not the case, right? Jeudy has been lackluster to say the least. And great route runner, just can't seem to get it going there, okay? Allen Robinson for the Bears. Good matchup for Allen Robinson. You may want to consider him. I mean, he is playing Tennessee. He has been pretty good. 21 points last time he played. Not bad. And he is set to get targets. So if you want to play Allen Robinson, if you have him, good matchup this week. Laviska Shenault and the Jacksonville receivers, good matchup versus Houston, although Houston is just not a team you could trust, okay? And Amari Cooper, who's been crap in the bed all season long, has a good matchup versus Pittsburgh secondary, CeeDee Lamb. They have a decent matchup. Pittsburgh is a great defense, but sometimes they allow a lot more points to wide receivers. So when you look at Amari Cooper, hard to trust, but he does have a good matchup. Other guys that have a good matchup you may want to consider is Antonio Brown coming into his first game. He is playing the Saints. And when you look at a guy like Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, they do have a good matchup versus the Saints defense. I don't know how much he's going to get involved. I know a lot of people are starting Antonio Brown. There's a lot of uncertainty with him coming in his first week, but I think he gets a touchdown. I mean, I don't see him getting a lot of volume, but he can be pretty effective his first game back, okay? DeAndre Hopkins, good matchup as well, if you want to consider him. Terry McLaurin versus the Giants, and those guys in Washington have a decent matchup. But again, always suspect at the quarterback position, okay? Tough matchups at wide receiver. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton. Shepard, I think he's still a little bit banged up. He was limited in practice Wednesday. Slayton, though, good matchup, just hasn't really wowed us. He'll put up around 10 points, but nothing to get excited about. A.J. Brown, tough matchup. So Slayton, A.J. Brown, all part of the tough matchup. Corey Davis coming off a hot week. He does have it in tough versus Chicago. Third hardest matchup versus position. So him and A.J. Brown, a little bit tough, even though they were pretty good the week before. Robbie Anderson, similar to Bridgewater, have it in tough this week. They are playing Kansas City. Fourth hardest matchup versus position, so be cautious there. Kansas City is having a hard time this week at the wide receiver position versus Carolina secondary. Tyreek Hill coming off a good week. Be cautious a little bit. They have it a bit tough. And also Seattle versus Buffalo, a little bit of a tougher matchup. Sixth hardest versus position for wide receiver with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, okay? Other guys you want to be careful of is the wide receivers from the Colts, having a little bit tough against Baltimore. T.Y. Hilton, obviously not a factor, but Michael Pittman coming into his second week playing has it in tough, okay? And same with Zach Pascal. All of these wide receivers have it in tough, okay? Other guys you may want to consider sitting, and this is, again, if you have these guys in year long, I'm just telling you they have a tough matchup, is I don't think he's back, but any of the wide receivers from the Saints and Michael Thomas, I don't think Michael Thomas, I think he's limited. I do the last minute news and notes on Sunday morning. I don't really look at injuries till right before the game. But apparently, I think he's still out. But all the wide receivers from the Saints have it in tough versus Tampa Bay. And also Devontae Adams and the wide receivers from the Packers have it in tough against San Francisco, right? San Francisco's defense. So be cautious with them. And Oakland's defense has Oakland. Did I say Oakland? Las Vegas Raiders have it in tough against the Chargers. I'm so used to calling them Oakland and the football team. I'm still trying to get that name in my head. It's still tough to sink in. All right, moving on to the tight end position. Let's roll through this. And a lot of people say, who do I start and sit? Again, sometimes it goes to your gut feeling. But Noah Fant, good matchup here. Darren Fells, Rob Gronkowski, right? All these guys have good matchup. Gronkowski now starting to get into the groove, okay? Good matchups. Other guys that have good matchups here, you may want to consider Evan Ingram, but the guy's he's got brick for hands. Yeah, bricks for hands. The guy, he's dropped a lot of balls. Darren Waller, pretty easy matchup here versus Chargers. They don't play tight end that well, okay? I don't know if you want to start these guys here, but Jacksonville tight ends, it's just, you're never going to start him. But James O'Shaughnessy's got a good matchup. He had 6 points last time he was out. Nothing to get excited about, but those are kind of your easy matchups. Hawkins has got kind of a mid-range matchup, probably worth a start there. Guys that got it in tough. Mark Andrews against Indy got it in tough. He is $4,800 on DraftKings, but it is a tough matchup for Mark Andrews, so be cautious there. I mean, he's put up 6 points last time he played. Nothing to get excited about. And you guys, and I told you, stay away from tight ends in drafts. I think he was like a third-round pick, second or third-round pick, fourth-round max, and he's crapping the bed. He's got it in tough. You got to be aware of that this week. Dalton Schultz, Cowboys, got it in tough, fourth hardest versus position. Other guys you want to be careful of is Hayden Hurst, got it in tough this week versus Denver. Travis Kelce, also a tough matchup, ninth hardest versus position. And Robert Tonyan, fifth hardest versus position against San Fran. I know a lot of people are excited about Tonyan, but he does have it in tough. And again, it could be one of those weeks where, yeah, he's got it in tough, but he completely has like 3 touchdowns. You never really know. I'm just telling you guys the optimal matchups versus position, who's got it good, who's got it bad. So it helps sway your decision whether you're playing DFS or year-long. It might help you, okay? Moving on to the running back. Let's start off with the guys that have it in tough. Jonathan Taylor, what a huge disappointment not getting the volume that we all expected and wanted out of him. He was coming off in the 3rd, 4th round in fantasy leagues. I thought he would have had a good year. I think he was the steal of the draft, right? I was thinking that because he was a workhorse in college, but they keep getting the pests involved. Guys like Nyheim Hines, Jordan Wilkins that have no business touching the ball. Taylor is the future of that team, yet I don't think the Colts are thinking future. I think they're thinking now, but they're a disaster. I just don't like it. I don't like it for fantasy at all, okay? So Taylor and those guys have it in tough. Aaron Jones, not sure if he's playing. It's questionable. You may want to consider starting Dexter Williams or Tyler Ervin. Those are the backups to backups. Those are like the bottom feeders of the team, but they do have it in tough versus San Fran. So if you're getting excited and saying, hey, I got to start Dexter Williams, understand that he's got it in tough. Not only is he a 4th stringer, he's got it in tough, but hey, we've seen crazier things where, these guys get the opportunity, they come out and they completely ball out. But again, the odds are against these people, okay? J.K. Dobbins got it in tough here versus Indy, guys. All those guys, Gus Edwards, all those guys there in Baltimore that it's a disaster of a committee, have it in tough versus Indy, okay? Ronald Jones got it in tough against New Orleans rush defense. Zeke Elliott, who's been lackluster, man. I mean, he's been absolutely terrible this year. 6th hardest matchup versus position going against the Steel Curtain this week. He's got it in tough. Todd Gurley versus Denver got it in tough. He's very touchdown dependent, so I'm really concerned about him this week. Alvin Kamara got it in tough versus Tampa Bay. And Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, also both these guys have it in tough this week. And Jacobs, another guy who's been really boring, had a mediocre 16-point week last week, but again, got the 12th hardest matchup versus position. Guys that got it good, you may want to consider Jerick McKinnon, JaMycal Hasty. It is a bit of a committee, but they got it in good against Green Bay's rush defense. We saw what Dalvin Cook did to them last week. Good matchup for them. Speaking of Dalvin Cook, also good matchup versus Detroit, coming off a 52-point week, 4 touchdowns. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And again, I take credit, I got to just eat crow on this one, man. Dalvin Cook proving me wrong. The problem is, can he stay healthy? That's something to see, but he is looking outstanding. James Robinson playing Houston, Jacksonville versus Houston. Robinson's got it in good this week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell looking like absolute garbage, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire also mediocre week last week. They are playing Carolina in a favorable matchup, so look for Bell and Edwards-Helaire to do good. And I'm surprised against the Jets, man. They both look like crap, honestly. Justin Jackson, pretty good matchup here versus Vegas. Not Oakland, but Vegas Raiders there. James Conner, Benny Snell, all of those guys. Snell, obviously not a factor. More James Conner here. Playing Dallas, good matchup as well. You don't want to start this guy, but he's got a relatively easy matchup here is Frank Gore, believe it or not, and La'Mical Pirine. More La'Mical Pirine, I would think, but he is playing New England. They've been giving up some points there at the running back position. So if you really want to take a flyer or a wild card in DFS or someone with some upside, La'Mical Pirine, favorable matchup, but not too excited. David Montgomery versus Tennessee, good matchup as well, but again, not that exciting. Now, it's funny, I saw Montgomery actually break out for a little run. I think it was 30 yards or so. Again, that's like his biggest rise. Like, oh my God, I ran out. Finally, took you like 2 years to figure it out, but good for him. Chase Edmonds, I like his matchup this week. A lot of buzz around him. 22 points last time he played Miami. Good matchup. I do like Chase Edmonds this week, going into this week. And Chris Carson, you may want to consider him. I think he's still banked up. What does it say here? He did not practice Wednesday. Yeah, man, he's always questionable. I'm always cautious about guys like Chris Carson, so I don't think he's playing. If he does, he might be limited. So look for DJ Dallas, who came out and had a pretty good week the last time he came out. Okay, so maybe consider him. And honestly, guys, that is it. Those are your starts and sits, all the optimal players at each position. I'm telling you guys, it's week 9. Make sure you guys start the right person. Sometimes it comes down to your gut feeling. Make the right decisions, guys. Start the right people. This will help you. What I've went over here will help you, but it's up to you guys to make the decision. Now you know who the optimal players are at each position. If I did not mention a player, that means they've got a mid-range matchup, so they're not on the extreme green go, but they're not on the far red no, right? They're in the middle there with the matchup. So if I didn't mention them and you're looking at a player, oh, he didn't mention this team, it's probably because they got a mid-range matchup. So keep that in mind when you are starting and sitting these players, okay? That wraps it up, guys. Starts and sits week 9. Make sure you guys subscribe, leave a thumbs up, leave some of your questions below. I'll try to get to them. Also, manscaped.com. Use promo code SHOWERLION. Get yourself one of these trimmers. And also, make sure you guys subscribe to the Joe Camo Show. Having some amazing interviews coming up. Chris Johnson should be coming on the show very soon. And some other amazing guests. I just had Chris Gronkowski on. We had a great conversation about Rob Gronkowski, his life, his venture on Shark Tank, his entrepreneurial ventures as well. Very exciting stuff. Joe Camo Show, linked below, or just Google Joe Camo Show in your podcast apps, in Spotify or iTunes. Okay, guys? Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being here, and I am out. Talk soon.